ever dream of California just like becoming its own country? And I'm not talking about some Hollywood fantasy here. I mean like a for real, thought out plan for Calexit, you
Yeah.
know? That's what we're diving into today, this California independence blueprint. And let me tell you, these folks, they're serious.
Yeah, it's wild how this whole thing, this movement, really got going around like 2013. But then, after Donald Trump got elected, whoosh, it was like someone poured gasoline on a bonfire.
Yeah.
The polls after 2016, they showed something really interesting, something kind of shocking. A full third of Californians wanted to secede right then and there, like immediately.
Oh.
That's more than just a fringe group.
Yeah.
That's like a sizable chunk of the population saying, see ya later.
A third wanting to just bail. Wild.
Mm-hmm.
But this blueprint, though, it's not just some angry rant, right? It's different. Like, this is people taking those strong feelings, that urge to break away, and saying, okay, but how would it actually work? And then mapping it out step by step. So, okay, we've got, what, like a good chunk of Californians who are ready to just, like, declare independence right. But could we actually pull it off? Could we really do it? I mean, that's the big question.
Right.
And this blueprint, it actually tries to answer that. It tackles those big, like, logistical things head on.
Yeah.
Stuff like, all right, what about the military? What about water? What about trade? Like, all the things you'd actually need to figure out as a brand new country.
Absolutely. The nuts and bolts.
Exactly. So let's start with, like, defense.
Mm-hmm.
Protecting ourselves. They have this idea of using California's existing state guard, which, okay, makes sense. But then, get this, they also want to use the naval militia.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that the National Guard and the State Guard, they're like two totally different things, different animals.
Really?
Yeah, the president, they can federalize the National Guard, like call them up for duty wherever, send them anywhere.
Gotcha.
But the State Guard, that's different. That's purely under the governor's control. So the thinking is, like, okay, theoretically, a newly independent California, boom, they've already got a military force ready to go.
It's like a secret weapon they've got, just like waiting to be unleashed.
Yeah.
Though I gotta say, I'd imagine going from like state level defense to, full on national defense, that's gonna be way more complicated than, the blueprint makes it out to be.
Oh, for sure. Way more complicated.
And speaking of complicated, let's talk about something that like every Californian, and I mean every Californian, has an opinion on. Water.
Oh, yeah.
Because, it's no secret. We got droughts, we got shortages. It's a whole thing here. So what do they say? Well, the blueprint suggests we should just move water from agriculture to urban areas, to make up for losing access to the Colorado River.
See, now that idea right there, that's like walking into a hornet's nest. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like water rights, super fiercely debated here, like crazy fiercely debated. Shifting that much water away from farms, man, that would have huge, huge consequences.
Yeah.
Economically, politically, you name it. Like, it impacts everything.
Yeah.
And the blueprint kind of makes it sound, simple.
Right. Like, it's just like, oh, we'll just scooch some water over there. No problem.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But in reality, we're talking about like a monumental, like a seismic shift in how we manage this resource.
Yeah.
Water is precious here,
Totally.
And, what this really shows, what this whole water thing reveals, is like this inherent tension that would exist in an independent California, like the needs of the urban areas versus the agricultural areas.
That's for sure.
Like that conflict isn't going away, and water would be like a major, major sticking point.
Oh, absolutely. Talk about like a recipe for some serious controversy.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe going solo on water, not the easiest sell. But what about like international trade? Because globally, California is a big deal. So could we actually like make it on our own? What do you think? Because the blueprint, they claim that California could not just survive, but they say thrive on the global stage. Especially, if we were free from all those like pesky federal regulations that are holding us back.
Yeah, and you know what? There's actually like some logic to that argument.
Really?
Yeah, because think about it. California already has like the 5th largest economy in the world. That's huge.
Oh, it's massive.
Right. And we export a ton of stuff, especially agricultural goods. So the thinking is independence. It could give us more leverage. We could negotiate our own trade deals, access all kinds of global markets on our own terms. So there's definitely some potential there.
So instead of like Uncle Sam calling all the shots, it'd be like, California's open for business. Come and get it.
Right. Exactly.
That's a pretty tantalizing thought, I gotta say. But, hold your horses, everyone, because this blueprint, it's not all sunshine and roses. It's not all like California beaches and, Hollywood glamour. they do acknowledge that there are some potential downsides to independence, and some of them are, well, they're pretty major.
Yeah, so like one of the big ones, one that really kind of jumped out at me is this whole thing about federal funding.
Because the blueprint, it basically argues that California, we're constantly getting like a bad deal. Like we're paying way more in federal taxes than we ever get back in benefits. Like we're footing the bill for everyone else.
Yeah, it's think of federal funding like a giant potluck, right?
Okay.
In California, we show up with like the most elaborate dish. We're talking like a multi-tiered California roll platter, all the bells and whistles.
Yeah.
But then everyone gets to share,
Right.
right? Even if they just brought like a bag of chips.
Right.
Right.
So yeah, we might not be getting back the same value in terms of like dollar for dollar, right?
But we are still benefiting. It's true, California contributes a lot to the federal government, but we also receive billions and billions back for things like roads, our schools, healthcare, you name it. So it's definitely more nuanced than I think the blueprint sometimes makes it out to be.
So it's not like we'd be totally like high and dry, financially. But okay, here's where things get really, really interesting, at least for me. Civil rights.
Yeah, big one.
Huge, because the blueprint is basically arguing that like California's values on things like, gun control, LGBTQ rights, all of that, they're basically on a different planet. Not even just a different state, a different planet from, the direction the federal government is going, which is increasingly more conservative. And so their point is like, maybe independence for California, it's not just about the money, it's about like our identity. It might be the only way that we can really truly live our values.
Yeah, and this is like a huge point of contention in this whole Calexit debate.
Yeah.
Let's take gun control, right? That's a big one. California has definitely, we've faced roadblocks, right? Like federal courts striking down some of our stricter gun laws.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's definitely tension there. There's conflict. But to say it's purely, California good, feds bad, I think that ignores a lot of the complexity that exists within our state, right? I mean, we have a lot of diverse views here in California. So even if we were independent, these debates, they wouldn't just magically vanish.
Right, yeah. It's more complicated than that.
Way more complicated.
So it's not like, skipping down easy street. It's more like, navigating a minefield, I guess.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it.
But let's circle back for a sec, though, to the blueprint itself. How do they actually picture this going down? Like, how does California actually break away? What's their grand plan?
Well, their plan hinges on something that, if you live in California, you know it well, direct democracy.
Oh, yeah.
They love it. So they want to use a ballot initiative, which basically means getting enough signatures to put the question of independence, boom, right there on the ballot. Let the people decide. And if a majority of Californians vote yes, then the state government would form, get this, a blue ribbon commission.
A blue ribbon commission?
Yeah, basically like a group of experts, the best of the best, and their job would be to figure out all the logistics, right? Really create this detailed plan for what an independent California would actually look like. All the nitty-gritty.
Blue ribbon commission. That kind of rings a bell, actually. Have we heard that somewhere before?
Yeah, it's actually very similar to what happened in Scotland.
Oh, right.
They had the Cullman Commission, and this commission, they were instrumental in paving the way for the Scottish independence referendum back in 2014. And so the idea is by having these experts, right, analyze everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it, it helps people, really wrap their heads around what independence would actually mean for their lives. It makes it seem more real, less like just some kind of pie in the sky dream.
So is that what this whole California independence blueprint is really all about? Trying to take Calexit from this fringe idea, that people kind of laugh about and make it into something that feels doable, even maybe inevitable.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the goal. Whether they succeed or not, I mean, that's a question for the history books, not for this deep dive.
That's right. We're not writing the history books yet. Well, there you have it, everyone. The California Independence Blueprint. A fascinating, and let's be honest, a little bit wild look at whether the Golden State could really, truly go it alone. It's a plan that's full of, some pretty bold claims, some potential pitfalls, and dare I say it, a little dash of that, classic California dreaming. Could it work? Could we actually become our own nation? Well, no crystal ball here, but hopefully this deep dive gave you some serious food for thought. And hey, maybe next time you're stuck in traffic on the 405, you look around and think, is this what it would be like? Or is this, just another day in the Golden State?